The wreckage of the Meridian Dawn scattered across the obsidian plains of Kresh 7 like broken bones. Hera stumbled through the debris field, her emergency suit torn at the shoulder, blood trickling down her arm. The distress beacon pulsed weakly from her wrist, console a futile prayer cast into the void. No rescue would come. Not this far. Into the fringe territories. Not for a single human cartographer whose ship had kissed an asteroid belt at the wrong angle. She collapsed against a twisted bulkhead, chest heaving. The planet's 3 moons hung in the purple sky, like watching eyes. Kresh 7 was classified as uninhabited, a surveyor's paradise of mineral deposits and geological wonders. The dossier had mentioned nothing about the creatures. They emerged from the crystalline forests at dusk. Hera saw them first as shadows low, prowling silhouettes that moved with predatory grace. Her hand went to the plasma cutter at her belt, but froze when she counted them. 7. No. 9. Too many. The creatures stepped into the moonlight, and her breath caught. They stood nearly 4 feet tall on muscular hind legs, covered in iridescent scales that shifted between deep violet and midnight blue. Their heads were broad and reptilian, crowned with bony crests, and their eyes golden, slit-pupiled, and disturbingly intelligent, fixed on her with unnerving focus. Powerful forelegs ended in curved talons that could shred plasteel. Apex predators, pack hunters. Hera's survival training screamed at her to run. But her anthropologist's instinct whispered something else. These weren't mindless beasts. The way they fanned out, communicated with subtle chirps and tail movements, established a perimeter. This was coordination. Strategy. The largest one, easily 5 feet tall with scarred flanks and a chipped crest, stepped forward. Hera raised her empty hands slowly. "Easy," she whispered. "I'm not food. Well, I am food. But I'm also complicated food." The creature tilted its head, studying her. Then it made a sound, not a growl, but something closer to a questioning trill. Over the following days, Hera learned to survive in their presence. The pack she'd taken to calling them that didn't attack. Instead, they watched. They were curious, especially the younger ones. 2 cubs in particular became her constant shadows. One with bright amber eyes, she named Vek, and another with a distinctive white marking on its snout. Vek was bold, approaching within arm's reach to sniff her equipment, her ration packs, even her hair. The young predator seemed fascinated by everything human. On the 3rd day, Hera's headband, a simple blue fabric band she'd worn since the academy, slipped from her head while she worked on the emergency beacon. She'd been too focused on rewiring the power cell to notice. Until she heard the excited chirping. Vek had found it. The cub held the headband delicately in its jaws, golden eyes bright with discovery. The other cubs circled, chattering in their complex language of clicks and trills. Hera watched, transfixed, as Vek did something extraordinary. The cub stretched the headband between its forelegs, examining it from every angle. Then, with remarkable dexterity, Vek slipped it over its crested head. The blue fabric sat askew at first, but the cub adjusted it, settling it just below the bony ridge of its crest like a crown. The effect was immediate and startling. The other cubs fell silent. They stared at Vek, heads lowering in what looked unmistakably like deference. The white-marked cub approached, chirped softly, and touched its snout to Vek's foreleg, a gesture Hera had seen them use with the pack leader. "No way," Hera breathed. Vek stood taller, the headband gleaming in the alien sunlight. The cub turned toward the older pack members, and even they seemed to regard the young one differently. When Vek moved, the others followed. When Vek chirped a command, they responded. They'd made her headband a symbol of authority. Hera spent hours observing the phenomenon, her scientific mind racing. The pack's social structure was clearly hierarchical, but flexible. They recognized symbols of leadership: the pack leader's size, its scars, its commanding presence. And somehow, they'd incorporated her headband into that framework. It was brilliant. It was unprecedented. It was also her way home. Over the next week, Hera worked carefully to build trust. She shared her dwindling rations with the cubs, earning Vec's particular loyalty. She mimicked their sounds, learned their postures, established herself as a non-threat, perhaps even a strange, soft member of the extended pack, and she crafted more headbands from salvaged material. Blue fabric torn from her emergency blanket, red strips from a safety harness, green cord from her shelter kit. She worked openly, letting the cubs watch, letting them see the creation process. When she finished, she approached Vec, who now wore the original headband constantly. The cub watched as Hera knelt and offered the new headbands to the other cubs. One by one, they accepted, and one by one, the pack's dynamics shifted. The cubs became leaders of their own small coalitions. They began to organize not just for hunting, but for play, for exploration, for protecting Hera's campsite from the larger nocturnal predators that prowled the crystalline forests. The pack leader watched this development with what Hera could only describe as bemused tolerance. The old predator seemed content to let the cubs experiment with their new hierarchy. When the rescue ship finally arrived 32 days after the crash, Hera stood among her pack, surrounded by cubs wearing makeshift crowns of colored fabric. The rescue team's sensors had picked up her beacon, but what they found left them speechless. A human woman, alive and well, standing at the center of a pack of apex predators. Dr. Hera Chen? The rescue team captain's voice crackled through her comms. Are you safe? Well, Hera looked at Vec, who stood beside her, blue headband, sitting proudly on its crested head. The cub chirped a protective warning toward the hovering rescue shuttle. I'm safe, Hera confirmed. But we need to update the creche. 7 files. These aren't just predators. They're people. As the shuttle descended, Vec touched its snout to Hera's hand, a gesture of trust, of friendship, of something deeper that had formed between two intelligent species in the depths of space. Hera left her headbands with the pack, all except one, which Vec refused to relinquish, wearing it even as the shuttle lifted off. Through the viewport, Hera watched the cubs stand together on the obsidian plains, crowned in human fabric, watching their strange, soft-skinned packmate return to the stars. The predator cubs had found her headband, and in doing so, they'd discovered something more important. They'd found connection, understanding, and a bridge between worlds that spoke not through words, but through symbols of trust and threads of blue.